Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jay. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jay. Though some of you may remember me from NASA's Junior Space Program, where I was one of the first astronauts to orbit the Earth in a cardboard space capsule. November 6th is Moses Smith Day at the East Tennessee Historical Society. I'm honored to be here today to tell you about him. Moses Smith was my great-great-grandfather. He fought in the Civil War as a sergeant serving in Company A of the 1st United States Colored Heavy Artillery, pictured on the wall back there. If you are an American of African descent, then you have been touched by history. I don't just mean because I met this man while he was running for president. No, I mean every day. But growing up, I didn't know this. My parents didn't talk much about the South beyond personal anecdotes. How my dad got that scar in his rump, stealing watermelons and not quite clearing a barbed wire fence. How my mom, eager to learn to drive, took the family car joyriding and got into a fender bender at the age of 13. As far as I know, my dad never got in trouble. In my mom's case, the cops waved it off. Neither of them talked about what they faced living in North Carolina and Tennessee in the first half of the 20th century. They wanted, they later said, to protect me from the reality of Jim Crow, a reality that I've never had to face directly. I was an adult before I began to understand what segregation took from them, but they survived to achieve the lives they lived. They didn't tell me those stories because I think they wanted to not have to recall things they could never forget. Being second-class citizens, not ever being safe or truly protected by the law, not being equal. My dad's family, the Strongs, are from Hoffman, North Carolina. They were farmers. All of them migrated to New York. One by one, until by the 50s, they all lived there. Marion, Marjorie, Clementine, Albert called Steve, Lulabelle, Sadie Magnolia, Uncle David, and Thomas Jr. And even my paternal grandmother, and eventually their father too. Pretty much everybody. Growing up in New York, I knew all of them except for my grandparents. All of my dad's 8 brothers and sisters. I was close with several of them. Sadly, they're all gone now. My father, James Armstrong, passed away in 1990. But he accomplished a lot. Honorary consul to the Gambia, top salesman, father, husband, law school grad, and red tail. In 1944 and 45, he was an armorer with the 100th Fighter Squadron, a sergeant responsible for loading and maintaining the guns on the P-51 Mustangs they flew. These are the guys who shot down the jets, the ones who sank a battleship with a fighter plane and kept our bombers safe. Like so many veterans, he never talked about his service. He never mentioned he was a hero. My mom, Violet J. Kennedy, was originally from Knoxville, Tennessee. Before she retired to Florida, my mom spent 30 years working as an administrator for the City of New York Department of Personnel. She met my dad in law school, working on her second law degree. Before that, she was an actress with the American Negro Repertory Players and a graduate of Howard University. She came to New York after serving in the American Red Cross. She was stationed in France and in Germany at the end of the Second World War, and one of the only units providing companionship, coffee, and donuts to Negro troops behind the lines. From the 262nd Quartermaster Battalion, who ran the fuel supply at D-Day, to the 614th Tank Destroyers who helped breach the remains of the Siegfried Line, to General Patton's favorites, the 761st Tank Battalion, heroes of the Battle of the Bulge. Overseas, my mom met Ida Wood, her lifelong best friend. Ida, someday herself a friend of Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela, a student of Hale Woodruff, an art collector, an educator, executive, and world traveler, and a devotee of Malcolm X, who only missed being at the Audubon Ballroom that fatal night because she had the flu. My godmother, Ida Wood, 97 years old today. My mom's family, the Kennedys, were well-to-do. Her dad, my grandpa, was a successful businessman in Knoxville, Tennessee. With his brother Clarence and their father, they ran several successful enterprises, including Walt's Sweet Shop, a drugstore, a weekly newspaper, the Knoxville Herald, a printing company, and a sports bar, thriving even during the Depression. My great-great-grandfather, Walter C. Kennedy, got his start as a silversmith at Hope Brothers Jewelry, but eventually he owned and managed the Gem Theater. The Gem played movies, but was also a premier performance venue on the colored circuit. Among others, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, and Duke Ellington would play for the white audience across town and come to the Gem to play for their own. Of Walter C., it was said that he never hopes nor expects to be rich, as he is too liberal in giving away what he might keep for himself. That's from the Knoxville Negro, published 1929. Noble sentiments, even if he did print them himself. My Gramps met and fell in love with Isabel Violet Smith, easily the one ancestor I'd most like to have known. I mean, come on, wow, right? I mean, wow, really. And yes, Gramps did sign up for World War I. They soon married, but tragically, Isabel died the year my mother was born. Isabel's dad, John, was a chauffeur. His brother Jim was a policeman, like their father before him. Even as early as 1919, Knoxville was considered a paragon of New South prosperity, a growing hub of 2 major railroads and 3 highways with opportunity for all. But on the night of the last Friday in August that year, a young white woman, Bertie Lindsay, was shot and killed by an intruder. Her cousin, Ora, the only eyewitness. Patrolman Andy White and my great-granduncle Jim were called to the scene. Smith later swore that White listened to Ora describe the assailant and decided it was this man. Maurice Mays, chosen purely out of spite. Mays, a light-skinned man, lived a life of privilege in a world that straddled the color line. His father was known to be the current mayor, John McMillan, though that was never publicly acknowledged. He'd been on both sides of the law. After a brief time as a deputy sheriff, he ran the Strollers Cafe in what was the heart of Knoxville's red light district, a place where black and white mingled. He was popular, and ladies of all colors liked him. Actually, the only person who didn't seem to like him was Officer Andy White. They questioned Mays, searched and found a gun. Officer Smith, a more than 13-year veteran of the force at the time, testified that the pistol was cold and had not been fired. White insisted on bringing Mays back to the scene where the exhausted Ora misidentified him under a street lamp at 3 in the morning. Mays was arrested for the shooting. The next day, angry whites began to gather near the Knox County Jail. By evening, about 1,000 strong. They used dynamite to storm the jail so they could lynch Mays. They freed the white prisoners to help them. Unable to find Mays, unaware that he'd been moved away before they could act, the mob began raiding and looting. They laid siege to Black South Central Avenue. The mayor called in the National Guard to break up the riot. Snipers and troops exchanged fire, and 7 people were killed. Strangely, though, only one of them white. Not much later, Mays, though clearly innocent, was convicted twice. Despite telling the truth, Jim Smith couldn't save him. The summer of 1919 has been called the Red Summer. There were over 25 race riots that year across the country. Not much is known about my great-great-grandfather, Moses Smith, before the war between the states. In February of 1864, 18-year-old Moses enlisted as a private in the 1st United States Colored Heavy Artillery. He was 5 feet 6 inches tall, dark complected, and gave his occupation as farmer. The first was raised by General Davis Tilson, a native of Rockland, Maine. Assigned to Knoxville in the latter part of the war, he applied to Ulysses S. Grant to raise a colored regiment to defend the city. The first was mustered and remained in service until 1866. They saw action in Tennessee and Alabama, and later supported General George Stoneman in Virginia and North Carolina. The general pronounced them ready to take the field. His command nearly captured Jefferson Davis when he fled Richmond, Virginia at the end of the war. It was mistakenly believed at the time that Davis escaped by disguising himself as a woman. Moses was known for keeping the regiment sharp. Within a year, he was promoted to sergeant, the highest rank an African descent soldier could attain. I wish I had a picture of him. By 1870, Moses owned a house on Clinch Avenue and was a celebrity in local politics. He was narrowly defeated in a campaign to become Knoxville's first black police detective. At the time, blacks had to be elected to the police force, and then only for 1 year. However, by 1882, Moses became a full-time police officer and even served as a city alderman. He was eventually appointed house policeman at the Customs House, the city's first federal building. When he suffered a fatal heart attack in 1886, newspapers called Moses Smith Knoxville's most beloved and respected black man. Businesses and government offices closed for his funeral. His pallbearers to the Oddfellows Cemetery included the governor-elect of the state. Moses was only 39. He was survived by his wife, Anna Moore Smith, and their 4 children. Alfred Anderson Smith, named for the Reverend Alfred Anderson, unofficial chaplain of the first. James Green Smith, himself a Knoxville police officer for 23 years. And their daughter, Julia Ann Greenfield, shown here with my mother. And my great-grandfather, John Wesley Smith. Without them, I wouldn't be here. There is one other thing. Moses Smith was once questioned by a reporter about a rumor that he began his life as a slave. Moses said he could not remember ever being owned by anyone. After that, the thread gets thinner and thinner the further back I go. It's hard to look at information about slaves, sifting a long list of human beings as property, all nameless and identified only by age and gender. I mean, come on, even your dog has a name. Recently, I did a DNA test. It was cool. I spit in the test tube and put it in the mail. My heritage is 60% West African, 30% Scandinavian, and 7% Persian. 30% Viking, really? Clearly, there are a lot more questions to ask. Maybe my parents didn't tell me about their history so I could discover it for myself. So I could look back and be proud in a way they never could. I'm sorry they never got to share the truths I've learned about us that that maybe they didn't even know. Thank you. I want to encourage everyone here to investigate and ask relatives before it's too late. Find out not just who you are and where you're from, but your part in history as well. I'd like to thank the museum for letting me speak here this morning. I also owe thanks to Danette Welch of the East Tennessee Historical Society for loaning me her diligent research, and to Robert Booker of the Knoxville Sentinel for his guidance. Thank you for taking my call. And I'd like to thank all of you for listening this afternoon. Thank you. I guess questions?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
My name is Frank Smith. I'm the founder and director of the African American Civil War Memorial Museum.
Oh, nice to meet you.
I want to say hello. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My name is Frank Smith. This is certificate for Moses Smith. Y'all know they say in the beginning everybody named Smith. Y'all know that, right? But this is, we present this to descendants when they want to come up with to descendants when they do their presentations here at the museum. The certificate of honor for Moses Smith, 1st Regiment US Col'd Heavy Artillery, organized in Nashville, Tennessee on February 20th, 1864. His name may be located on wall A, plaque 2, on the wall of honor of the African American Civil War Memorial Monument. This monument is located in the intersection of 10 U Streets Northwest. A grateful nation finally pays tribute to the 209,000 troops who helped to save the nation, end slavery, and start America on the struggle for freedom that continues today. Signed by Dr. Frank Smith, founder and director, African American Civil War Memorial Foundation. This is your certificate. I'm going to present it to you and to the family. And say thank you very much. May God continue to bless you and your family. I also want to make one announcement, and that is that in 1865, when the Civil War was over, the Union Army celebrated the victory with a march down Pennsylvania Avenue. The victorious army marched for 2 days, 200,000 soldiers, regular Union Army soldiers. None of these African American regiments were invited, including this regiment. None of them were invited to the parade. On May 17, 2015, we are going to reenact that parade down Pennsylvania Avenue. And this time we're going to get it right. We're going to put members of the 25th Army Corps in that parade. And we're inviting every descendant family, this is where I want to get to with you, to dress one of your family members in a Union uniform, the USCT Union uniform, and we'll tell you where to get it from. And we're going to put your family member in this parade. And I want to tell you that because I think it's important for somebody who represents him in that whole generational chart that you just produced to get this march down Pennsylvania Avenue. He can't march, but you can march for him. And so we want to invite you and your family to do that. We're inviting all of our families to put somebody in the parade. And this includes, by the way, the white officers who also commanded these regiments. So we're inviting them too, also to join with us to do the march. And of course, the regular Union Army. There are 6,000 to 10,000 Union reenactors who are going to join us in that march also. We couldn't have won this. We couldn't win this war. We were tough soldiers in the Civil War. We couldn't have won it by ourselves. And the parade will start at the Capitol, go to the White House, and go past a reviewing stand where we expect the President of the United States to sit and review in 2015 as he did in 1865. When this army went past the White House, the President sat and reviewed. Actually, the President was Johnson by then, because you know President Abraham Lincoln had been assassinated in April of that year. The march took place in May. They had planned the march before he was assassinated, so they went ahead with it after his funeral was over. So we're going to invite you to come back to Washington to join us in that parade. And actually, when you finish, I'm going to give a few minutes for people to ask questions. And when you finish with the questions, I'll walk you out to the memorial and point his name out for you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you very much. So we got, you know what, people always accusing us of being a dollar short and a day late. We started early this year. 13 months, 14 months from now. So we got plenty of time to get ready. Bring the whole family up. Everybody, you put on y'all, if you bring your family with you, they can put on a t-shirt say they're representing the soldier too. We'll get everybody in the parade.
That sounds fantastic.
Okay?
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask? I don't know that I know that much more than I've already told you, but I'm happy to. Yes, sir?
How long ago did you start your research?
About 2 years. 2 years ago. My mom passed away in June of last year, so I was asking her questions, and I gained access to a cache of photographs that she had. And I've been doing some genealogical research generally, just to sort of tracing my family. And I found out about Moses Smith, and I started calling. I made some calls, and fortunately, as I say, there's a Moses Smith Day. They celebrate him at the Historical Society, and they were very excited to hear from me and told me all sorts of things. And I'd also come across an article by Robert Booker when I was just doing a Google search about my grandfather, because he was curious to know more about him. So if you look, there's often stuff out there. I also do recommend Ancestry.com as a great way to at least start your research. To find, if you know births and death dates of your relatives, you can track them down.
Excellent presentation, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good.
Anybody else? No? All right, great. Well, thank you all again. I didn't have a lot to say about Moses because what there is fills about half a page, but I wanted to sort of walk everyone through the journey at least.
And that's actually the advantage of having descendants do it. They walk you back to the soldier. And it covers a great amount, 150 years of American history.
It's interesting, the twists and turns.
And of course, my family's sort of history of service. My dad was, a Tuskegee Airman, and all of my uncles have, have draft cards or enlisted and volunteered. So I just don't have pictures.
And that's usually true also. You find that this goes from one generation to the next. So this family member served in the military, which is what you would expect.
Yes.
Keep it up. We have a video that has his soldier who was in World War II. He finally comes over to the monument to see his grandpappy in the Civil War.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah. He's wearing his cap with all of his medals on it in World War II.
Later, my research led me here to come here and see your great museum, which I love this place. It's great.